And that's the issue of idolizing personalities. You know, Lag Omer is all about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. I want to begin with a very important piece we read in the Kuzari, written by Rabbi Yehuda Halevi. Back to one of the Rishonim. He's trying to explain how the Jewish people, after attaining prophecy and hearing God speak, how did they then go make a golden calf and worship it? Like it's just from prophecy to idolatry, like it just doesn't go. So you gotta hear what he says. He says that as Jews, we have a real issue. Our lives are totally governed by the will of the Creator. Everything we do, there's halacha that covers every situation you will ever encounter. There is nothing that halacha doesn't have something to say about. From the order in which you put on your clothes in the morning, or which shoe you tie first, and to the way you conduct your business, to how you use the washroom, to absolutely everything. Absolutely everything. There's no situation in life that Torah doesn't have something to say about. So we are living our lives completely on the basis of the will of a Creator that we cannot see, we cannot understand, we cannot define in any way whatsoever. We can't imagine. And just to make it more complicated, and we're even required to develop a personal relationship with it. How are you supposed to love something that is unimaginable, not understandable? If you attribute any form to him, you are guilty of heresy. So how did the Jews deal with it? They had Moshe. They had a leader that was, larger than life. A leader that had attained levels of prophecy. We would just be able to have a two-way conversation with Hashem when he felt like it. Who was really the one that Hashem entrusted to perform all the miracles in Egypt. So they had this second best. If not God himself, at least what they had was the closest servant of Hashem. And they sort of worshipped him. That's what he writes. They trusted him. Their bitachon in Hashem was through Moshe. Because they could trust that Moshe will always come up with the miracle and Hashem will tell him to perform. So their bitachon, their everything was centered at least around the servant of Hashem. They miscalculated. It was already 40 days. They thought he was supposed to have come down and he didn't. They felt this terrible, insecure sensation. Moshe is gone, now what? And they needed something that they can hold on to, something that they can point to as the focus of their lives. Here they are fulfilling all of the mitzvahs as the will of the Creator. So at least we can, something, like his servant. We don't have that. What are we going to have now? So they worship this golden calf. It wasn't a simple thing. The golden calf represented, the cow was one of the images in the royal chariot in this world, whatever that's supposed to mean. It was something upward. It was created by way of miracle. It was alive. It was made of solid gold, and yet it was alive. It was eating grass. So they then shifted. A different servant. Moshe was the servant that he was, and now at least we have a golden calf that we can worship as sort of an intermediary or a physical manifestation of the non-physical God that we know exists. At least that. And that was a mistake, because that was idolatry. That was idolatry. Says the Kuzari, what did Hashem do? The first commandment after worshiping the golden calf, and after they destroyed it, and the ones that would actually worship that were killed out, what did they do? They got a commandment to build the Mishkan, the tabernacle. So Hashem said, no, you can't have anyone representing me, but you can have somebody that represents a dwelling place for me. So even though you didn't have somebody in my place, what you did have is the place where my presence is felt, which enables us to connect. And that's really the Beis HaMikdash served that purpose. It gave us the ability to connect to Hashem through His home, so to speak. At least it did that much. What Rabbi Yehuda Halevi is pointing out is something that it's a very sensitive point and could be extremely dangerous. Why is it that Judaism is so busy with all these great rabbis that live, telling stories about them? Hasidim have stories about their Admor, their Rebbe. Did they happen? Did they not happen? Who knows? The way the Hasidim themselves phrase it is, Hasidim say, it may or may not have happened, but it definitely could have happened. So they put it. And don't think that the non-Hasidic world is that much different. Okay, we don't talk about the same kind of open miracles, but who doesn't have miracle stories about every great Jewish leader? And there's a real problem because people develop a relationship with Hashem through leaders. I wouldn't call it worship, but it's not that far from it. And that's very problematic. It's very, very problematic. What is the purpose of leadership? We respect those who develop their character and their brain. And we accept their advice. We certainly take them seriously. We show honor to them because we realize they have done what a Jew is supposed to do. But ultimately, the way a Jew is supposed to think is it's between me and my Creator. Nobody can understand me as well as the Creator can. No other human being can know what's right for me the way I can. I have to be open to advice, but ultimately, I have to take responsibility for myself. I know my abilities. You know, in the growth process, as one is getting more and more into observant Judaism, what's he ready for? So the people around you will give you advice. Do they really know where you're at and what's good for you now? It's only you and God. That's it. No great Jew can understand you better than you can understand yourself. It's not you. It's between you and Hashem. Be open to advice, but ultimately you've got to use your brains and take responsibility for yourself. When you get up there, you're going to be answerable for every decision you make, and you can't blame that anybody else. Rashbi, it's so hard to imagine. We're proud that the Jewish nation has produced such people, such a person. It's inspirational because we recognize the greatness of the Jew, and that we can all be so much greater than we're willing to think. But one second, not to the point that borders on worship. Be very careful.
The borders of what?
Worship.
Oh, worship.
Be very, very careful. Be very, very careful. You know, that's why what has to be so need brains, especially when you start telling stories about contemporary people. I know someone who is a Hebrew writer, and he writes biographies of great people of the previous generation. See, he told me a story. He wrote a biography for kids. He wrote a biography of one of the big Admorim, the big Hasidic Rebbes. And he brought the biography to today's Rebbe, which is his son. And this Rebbe is really wise. So he tells him, those first chapters, take them out. You're talking about his youth? Listen, I don't know, I wasn't born yet. It's probably not true. He said, listen, I'm a Rebbe too. I was a kid. I lied, I cheated, I stole. Why do you have to make it that in order to be a great Jew, you were holy from the day you were born? It's not true. And then he said, furthermore, you're going to discourage all these kids because all the kids are like that, and now what you're telling them is that they'll never make it. To be great, you have to be pure. Is it just not true? So why did they write it? Because they want to worship this person. And you can't worship someone. You're going to worship him. I mean, he stole. You're going to worship someone who stole.
Do you think that this is like a pressing issue in like Judaism today?
I think in ultra-Orthodoxy it is. Modern Orthodoxy does not worship its leadership. Doesn't even listen to its leadership. I shouldn't say does not. It's interested in hearing what the leadership has to say, but that's about it. If you agree what he says, you'll quote him and feel good about it. But if you disagree, you won't.
Do you think it's something worth like trying to? Is there a fix to it, or like what's the?
You see, I don't know. I don't personally to go and change society. You know, like I have my reaches as far as it goes, and that's it. To me, it was important that I brought up my kids with the right amount of respect and cynicism. The right combination. You know, we would tell jokes like, this Rebbe was so great. He became bar mitzvah when he was 8 years old.
Would you say that this is perhaps more of a problem within the Hasidic community?
In the Hasidic world, it's interesting. In the Hasidic world, I think as they grow up, they get wise. And they know what's going on.
Yeah.
I find it more from in the Lithuanian world where they see their leadership as just totally infallible. it depends on what. Really does depend on what.
Yeah.
What about the self? Like, I feel like self is a massive worship. People worship themselves.
Yeah, I mean, in Judaism, we never had that. That's just not acceptable. It's not acceptable. Nobody plays with that. I mean, obviously, we have narcissists. We have all sorts of people with personality disorders. We have people that are into their ego. But in terms of the philosophy, the ideology that is preached by different groups within the nation, I don't think anyone preaches that.
You think that people would take the I'm a piece of Hashem part too far? Like skewing that aspect?
I haven't seen that happen. I really haven't seen that happen. I think we all suffer from some degree of lack of self-confidence, lack of self-worth. Because, we're going to be critical of ourselves. We're not perfect. And all of our imperfections make us think so much less of ourselves.
Is there anything that you would have added to the Rav Noach biography?
Yeah, we don't publish such things.
No.
The truth of the matter is, I think we all knew that he was a wild card. You don't write this in a biography, but one of the things that everyone around him was scared of is different times of the year he would lock himself into the office and reevaluate everything he's doing, and then come out and fire half the staff or something like that. No, we're not doing it. Gotta get the right people. At the same time, he traveled a lot, primarily fundraising, and he met people wherever he went. Sit next to someone on a plane, meet him at the airport. And he used to come back with someone he met at the airport, and he hired the guy. Because he shows so much potential. And then we were left having to find something for this guy to do. He had a very quick mind, and he would hire fire on the spur of the moment. It was wild. Same thing with ideas. He could change direction on the spot. We're doing something. No, that's not working. We gotta do something else. It was wild. It was not easy to work for him. It was not easy. But it was so inspiring because he was so for real. Yeah, so when they put all that wild stuff in the book, it doesn't sound good.
Do you think that's in, maybe not an issue, but in what you're saying of the wise Rebbe who had the perfect beginning and stuff like that, do you think leaving things out causes room for
Enlightenment.
yeah.
Yeah, you see, nobody, it was so different that nobody really saw him as a role model in terms of his personality. He didn't take care of his health. He was just totally dedicated to the Jewish people. And nothing else really mattered to him. His lifestyle was crazy. Later years, when he was not well, they bought him a treadmill. Until that point, he was totally not health conscious. Didn't know what he was wearing. I mean, he wore the same suit, the same black suit all the time, but I mean.
I wanted to ask also, I mean, I guess like, I'm thinking of certain specific groups, like more to what you were saying earlier of, it's hard to change society, but I feel like there's large groups of Jews that like are very extreme on the worshiping of their rabbis.
Traditionally, with those Chabad and Breslov.
Yeah. Like there's a lot of good that I think could come, that comes out of that, but
Listen, first of all, I mean, the Rebbe's were big people, very, very big people. Lubavitcher Rebbe was, there was a lot of opposition to him, but no one thought he was just an ordinary person. And he founded a movement. He thought of things before anyone else did. He was really the first one to do Q. No one believed in outreach. No one. We were losing it. The Jewish nation was just becoming less and less and less observant, and nobody was doing anything about it. And he built an army. Nobody else did such a thing. Plus, the advantage of having that kind of following where everyone swears by it was whatever he told them to do, they did. So if he told them, to move somewhere in the Far East where there wasn't another observant Jew around, and you're going to have kosher food flown in, and if one day it's not flown in, you're not going to have what to eat, and you're going to have to homeschool your kids. They did it. And the Chabad is everywhere because of that. So it's not surprising that they worship him.
do you think you could have one without the other, or do you need that level of devotion to a person?
We haven't seen an alternative. We have not seen an alternative. And good, and because of the creativity, that they're organized like nobody else. Now they all homeschool their kids, but it's all online. They had an annual convention where everyone flies in. It's awesome. Yeah, so if they worship him, we know why. At the same time, we know that it's a dangerous thing. Today, when the Rebbe is no longer alive, the same with Breslov. The problem with worshiping a Rebbe who's not alive is that you don't really have a live leadership. There's no one around who can slap you across the face and tell you you're fooling yourself. A Rebbe is one who's there to give criticism as well. And the same thing with leadership altogether. What would the Rebbe have said in today's situation? If you have a live teacher, then you know more, a live mentor. Yeah. There's another Hasidus, not so well known, that also worships the Rebbe who's no longer alive. And on Shabbos, when they read from the Torah, they call him up to the Torah. So they told the Rebbe of Gur that that's what they do. So he said, you just call on to the Torah? You should honor him with lifting the Torah.
I think like a concern I feel like there's like to what extent does they did so much good, but then there's also like the worshiping of a person as we see from like other we see in maybe other cases in the world like the worshiping of a person is bad and leads to a lot of bad things. Where is like now the good is outweighing the bad, but like I guess you're saying it's dangerous.
It's very dangerous. It's very, very dangerous. Very dangerous. We have to be careful ourselves. We have to be careful our societies, our families. We have to be very, very careful. And develop respect for people. We can tell stories about people, wonderful ones, but they're human beings. No human is infallible. That's the first thing. No human is infallible. No human is going to be able to make decisions for you where you can just trust him blindly. You've got to use your brains. You know yourself better than him, as great as he is. So important. Judaism is built on a personal relationship with the Creator, although you can't understand him.